the break about this new Clint Eastwood movie, the 1517 to Paris, released at the same time as Black Panther. Now, I'm not saying that it's on the same level as Black Panther. Obviously, Black Panther's a huge Marvel blockbuster. It's got a giant budget, probably like 10, 15 times bigger than Clint Eastwood's. But this is a movie that interested me because the original story interested me, and because the three main actors are the real heroes who stopped the actual terrorist. I mean, I'm not going to expect Oscar-level acting skills from them, but that's not why the movie is being denounced. It's being denounced because they don't treat the terrorist with enough kid gloves and enough sympathy. The Daily Beast, a reviewer at the Daily Beast, stated the film was, quote, more mind-numbing than his empty chair speech, and called it a stunning misfire. Of the terrorist, said the Daily Beast, as for the villain in question, Eastwood primarily films his hands, sneakers, arms, and back, all as a means of making him some sort of faceless existential threat, a symbolic vehicle for Stone's greater purpose. Now, of course, why they did that is because they want all the attention, all the glory to go to the actual American heroes that stopped the terrorists. That's why they don't endlessly focus on the terrorist himself. But the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette review lamented the exclusion of, quote, any hint of the terrorist motivation. So again, they're more interested in the excuses as to why the terrorists carried out the attack. Maybe it was, France's involvement in the war against ISIS or whatever. But again, that's not what the focus of the movie was about. The focus of the movie is about the heroes. That literally triggered all these far-left reviewers, because we can't have American heroes being depicted as American heroes. There has to be some kind of divisive wedge issue or some kind of identity politics obsession inserted into every single movie. I mean, they're now saying the BAFTAs, which is the UK Film Awards, if they don't have a diversity message in the movie, by 2019, it's not going to be even considered for an award. It's literal re-education brainwashing, to the point where if these movies don't pass purity tests, if they don't fawn to left-wing dogmas, to left-wing obsession with identity politics, they're going to get bad reviews. I mean, that is the ultimate kind of communist system, where all the art has to be filtered, all the movies has to be filtered through this government censor before it can even be commented on in any kind of neutral way. I mean, that is chilling. Even the Daily Mail wrote, which is a, typically right-wing publication, wrote about this movie, the Clint Eastwood movie, that his three heroes, quote, in that sacred American way, their Christianity is not incompatible with an obsession with firearms. Continued that the narrative throbs with Eastwood's conviction, shared as we know by President Trump, that the best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So they can't tolerate for a second the message that in some cases, terrorists, mass murderers are stopped by responsible people with firearms. So on that basis alone, because it doesn't pass the purity test of these far-left publications, they gave it a negative review. So this is the whole situation right now, where if you don't bow and scrape and grovel and genuflect to all these left-wing ideologues, these left-wing dogmas, you're not even going to get a fair hearing on any kind of art, on any kind of movie. And that's fundamentally bad for society, because it encourages people to make boring crap that's not driven by plot, but driven by, again, fawning obsequiousness to these left-wing dogmas. That's always going to produce boring, stale, samey, predictable content. And that's exactly what's starting to happen now in the rest of Hollywood, which is why their box office income has plummeted. We've seen the figures. It's, what is it? They had the worst summer last year for about 10, 15 years. Even though there's more people going to the movies because the population's far greater than it was 15 years ago. But still, income is down because people are turning away from this social justice indoctrination. We also see that with the NFL, of course. People are turning away from that. The polls on the NFL said that people were turning off because they don't want politics in their sports. I mean, that's why when Vince McMahon launched the alternative to the NFL, the XFL, he made a point of saying we're not going to have politics constantly injected into everything. People are sick of it. The left-wing intelligentsia is not sick of it, and that's why they're panning Clint Eastwood's movie, because he dares to portray authentic Americana. We will be back on the Alex Jones Show in the next segment. Breaking news at InfoWars.com. Don't go away. The irony of this, of course, is pretty stunning. given that Wakanda, the fictional East African nation in which Black Panther is set, bears all the hallmarks of an alt-right utopia. There's actually a meme that I posted on Twitter where it shows all the characteristics, all the traits of Wakanda, this fictional East African country. Wakanda is anti-immigration, isolationist, pro-wall. It's literally surrounded by walls to protect it. It has strict trade restrictions. It's anti-diversity. It's ethno-nationalist. It's anti-refugee. And it's anti-democracy. In fact, they literally have a quote in the Black Panther movie which says, quote, "Refugees bring their problems with them." That's how they explain the fact that they're not going to allow any immigration. So by any score, Black Panther and Wakanda is an alt-right dream. If you want to really boil it down to its core characteristics, you know, the alt-right, the far-right, the racist Trump supporters should love this movie because it's basically everything they advocate. It takes it to the extreme. And yet this movie has been used again for division in these hyper-partisan times. And now literally somebody at the root is calling on black people to start barking at white people to intimidate them into silence, or simply to intimidate women on their own. And these people, again, they're the anti-racists, we're the racists. Okay. So Black Panther's doing extremely well at the box office as the culture wars intensify. Actually, people who've watched the film have told me, I haven't had a chance to watch it, but people who've watched it and reviewed it have basically said that it's basically a battle between hyper-ethno-nationalism, black supremacy, and the main character who at the end of the movie becomes more of a classical liberal, and reason and logic tends to win the day. So this movie is the complete opposite of what everyone thinks it is with this whole liberation theology they've invested into. It's actually, from one perspective, it's an alt-right dream, and from another, the whole Black Lives Matter mantra gets demolished in the movie because they're the bad guys. So whatever people are transposing onto this Black Panther movie isn't really working out. There you see a screenshot that I did for my video with the main character with a Make America Great Again hat on, because again, a lot of aspects of Wakanda are stuff that literally Trump has advocated and is trying to implement. But no, that doesn't matter. They're just using this film for division. Meanwhile, another headline here, Hollywood elites blast Clint Eastwood's film for not portraying sympathetic terrorists. Now, this is exactly what I predicted would happen. So Clint Eastwood made a movie, very interesting movie, it's definitely one I want to watch, about the Paris train attack. You remember that a couple of years ago, where the terrorists tried to carry out a massacre on a train heading to Paris. Those 3 US soldiers intervened, stopped a terrorist attack. One of them was black, by the way. He's literally a black hero because he plays himself in the movie as well. So you've got an actual black hero, not somebody who prances around in a leotard on a stage like in Black Panther, but an actual African-American hero who stopped a terrorist. Nobody knows about him. Nobody cares about him. But Clint Eastwood's movie, 1517 to Paris, they use the same guys who actually stopped the terrorists. The original guys are in the movie. Of course, Clint Eastwood's a conservative. Hollywood literally has to have secret societies of conservatives simply for them to be able to talk to each other and still have careers. They have to do it behind the scenes. It's all hush-hush. So now a wave of negative reviews is pouring in for Clint Eastwood's movie. And we're going to read some of them here. Slant Magazine talks about the film's departure from the surprisingly visceral and nuanced book and says that one misses the prismatic structure of 1517 to Paris. And basically they go on to say that the terrorist in the movie who is stopped by the heroes is not portrayed sympathetically enough. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, even UK Daily Mail chastises this movie for its obsession with firearms. And again, the fact that the terrorist is, portrayed as a bad guy, God forbid. Imagine if there was a white supremacist with an AK-47 who tried to massacre people on a train and then Hollywood made a movie about it. Would the reviewers at the Daily Mail, at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, at the Daily Beast, would the reviewers be complaining about the fact that the white supremacist terrorist wasn't portrayed sympathetically enough? Look at it that way, and yet that's exactly what they're doing with this Clint Eastwood movie while they fawn and worship at the feet of the Black Panther movie. Very interesting clash there. Very interesting case study for the intensified culture wars that we're now experiencing in America. We'll be back to talk about it after the break. InfoWars.com. Don't go away.